Welcome to GameSpace. This is our review of Fantasy Strike. Coming from developer and producer Sirlin Games, the next iteration of this fighting franchise is now available on Nintendo Switch. Originally released for Windows in 2017, this fighting game introduces us to some bright new characters who fight to be the best. They're set in a fantasy world and have some pretty varied ways of fighting, with a range of classes that include zoners, rushdown, and other types of fighter that you can pick and choose from on the main selection screen. Log into the game for the first time, and Fantasy Strike has a few different modes. You'll have to get through the lengthy tutorial, however, that takes players through the initial ideas of how to control and fight using a character. It introduces each of the block, attacks, and special moves that are available for each player. Even if you're not an experienced player for this sort of game, you'll find that there's something to do here. You can entertain yourself once you're through this with solo in modes like arcade, daily challenges, survival, boss rush, and single matches. Arcade mode is generally one of the more favoured because it includes a story that kind of gives you a motivation for each of the characters. If you have friends who want to play, then you can use local play just to go one-on-one and see the whites of their eyes as you beat them into the ground. 10 total characters offer the skills, and the animation for each one is exceptionally well done. Combat will feel a little odd for players that are used to something more akin to Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. It's certainly unusual, and some people may take some getting used to. The game claims that the combat has been broken down to its most basic elements, including a dedicated jump button. Throughout the tutorial, we did find that we could be initially confused, and it did take some time to get things right. Beyond the combat and graphics, each of the stories told in arcade mode is something you might want to take a look at. These do give a more in-depth view of each of the characters' motivations, and again are akin to something you might be more used to in other fighting games. What we did like is that each of the characters' stories really did feel personal to them. Valerie's struggle to find her lover torn from her arms, or indeed the other characters' quest to overthrow a tyrant in their own city. Each of them has their own story, and it's worth getting involved in these just to find out what happens. Overall, there's a lot to like about Fantasy Strike. This game pares down some of the more complex elements of fighting games and makes things easy. There are tons of different modes to play, and you will find that the graphics are pretty unique. So for a game that takes the same old combos and tries to do something different, you've got to applaud Sirlin Games. Whether it's quite the finished product with the same finesse as something that you'd see at EVO, we might not know quite yet. But take a look, you'll definitely find something fun here.